Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a little bit of a look at everything we know about Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet in the Pokemon Trading Card game. We've had a bunch of news from Japan, we've had a bunch of news from English, and the way it usually goes is between me recording and uploading this video, there's probably going to be more news I'd have to work into the video. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I will do that for you because I care. But the first thing we really need to do is figure out the difference between the Japanese and English versions. And the good news is that the difference between them, it should be a little bit less. Because if we take, let's take for instance the last proper English set from Sword and Shield, that is your Silver Tempest. Well, that doesn't equate to a set in Japan, it equates to a couple of sets in Japan. So Silver Tempest is Sword and Shield 12, and that is the equivalent of a Japanese Sword and Shield 12 set, Paradigm Trigger, but it's also the equivalent of the Japanese Sword and Shield 11A set, Incandescent Arcana. But it's not even that simple, because Japan has a whole bunch of promos, some of which end up coming as promos for us, some of which end up being put into our sets, and that's why we end up having a little bit of a mishmash. But we're not really going to have that for Scarlet and Violet. There's not going to be a mini set that Japan had that we're going to be bringing in, because there is no mini set. Japan is going to have their Scarlet and Violet at the end of January. We're going to have our Scarlet and Violet at the end of March. And they are going to be very, very similar. Now, when I say very, very similar, I mean very, very similar. I do not mean they're going to be the same. Because it is very, very likely that some cards are going to be taken out of the Japanese set to be saved as promos for us. And we've already seen one. We have already had confirmation of the Mimikyu EX box, which is going to be coming. And we know at this stage that when a card is used as a promo for us, it gets taken out of the set that it would have been in were we following Japan, and it becomes a promo instead. So Mimikyu EX almost certainly won't be found in packs. Or, if there's full art versions, etc., they will. But the regular art won't, because we're using it as a promo instead. Similarly, we know there's a promo pack coming in Japan with Cyclizar EX. There are some other cards, but they've not revealed them. They've only revealed Cyclizar. And it may well be that that becomes a promo in the future. It may well be that it's pushed into our second set. Or it may well be that this ends up in Scarlet and Violet to pad the set and make it a little bit bigger. So there are still some questions lingering. But the basic premise here should be that our set is very similar to Japan's set. Couple of cards taken out to be used as promos, maybe a few extra added in that were promos, etc. over in Japan. As an example, we know that Japan has got 3 decks that they are getting, which do actually feature Mimikyu EX, Ampharos EX, and Lucario EX. And we don't know what's happening with Lucario and Ampharos. Like I've said, Mimikyu is going to be a promo for us. It's not actually taking out the Japanese set. It was going to be a promo. But you know where I'm going with this. We don't know what's happening to Ampharos and Lucario. Maybe they are going to be in our set. Or maybe they're going to be promos down the line. So there are a few questions. It's not going to be identical, but it should be like 90-95% the same. Depends what's happening with these starter deck cards outside of Mimikyu. Depends what's happening with Japan's promos. But largely speaking, it should be roughly the same. But we know that in English, there are a couple of very big changes that are happening to the game. Firstly, and I do think this is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news, we are getting rid of yellow borders. From now on, all the borders in the Pokemon TCG are going to be silver. That's not actually strictly true. We don't know what's going on with Korea. But certainly, in the West, in Japan, etc., etc., we are going to be having silver borders. That's wonderful, because silver borders look better, and as far as I'm concerned, are better. Some people like myself are delighted about this. Some people don't care. I've even seen a few comments from people that think this is worse. They are wrong, but that is a pretty big and significant change. We're also seeing a new type of basic energy. Here is the new silver border fighting energy compared to the most recent yellow bordered fighting energy. You can see the difference between them. They've changed a little bit. It's very much down to personal preference. The reality is, we won. Like, if you're looking at the best basic energy, we figured it out back in Heart Gold Soul Silver. Now, to be fair, we did then get a holo version of that in Call of Legends with, they were like 1 or 2 per box, as in total energy. It was very bad in terms of pull rates, but oh my word, like design-wise, they've never beaten these. These are the best. It really is as simple as that. So these are the ones I'm going to be going for most of the time, but they've got new basic energy. Think of that what you will. The other really big change that we see in at least the English version of the game, packs are going up in price. That's not a good thing. They're going up by 50 cents from $4 to $4.50, but they are giving us at least 3 holos per pack. Or 3 holos or better per pack. Now, since I told you about this initially, I have had a bit of a think. And one of the things that has occurred to me is that they may well be counting, I don't know this is just me speculating, but they might be counting reverse holo in that. So, it does say all cards that are rare or higher will be foiled, just like in Japan. And it does say that each pack of Pokemon cards will feature 3 guaranteed foil cards per booster, but they might be counting a reverse holo, so kind of 2 holos or above and 1 reverse holo. So, yeah. We'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to wait and see. My point is, this is happening, and this is pretty cool. Now, in terms of what we can expect from the set, they have changed what we've got in terms of chase cards. Pokemon V, V-Stars, V-Maxes are out, and we've got Pokemon EX. Little E, little X. Now, they still give up 2 prizes, just like we saw with Pokemon V. The major difference here is they are the correct level. So, sure, Caradon and Miraidon on the screen are basic, but for instance, I showed you there's an Ampharos coming in one of the decks and a Lucario coming in one of the decks over in Japan. And they have been confirmed, because we've literally seen the cards. We have seen that they are, in fact, well, Ampharos is a Stage 2, and Lucario is a Stage 1. This is a pretty big deal. It means we should be moving into a more evolution-based format. In theory, the Stage 1s are going to be better than the basic, and Stage 2s are going to be better than the Stage 1s. But you're going to have to actually evolve them up to get to that stage. People are hoping it's going to bring a bit more balance to the game in terms of evolutions. I hope so, personally. It's one of those things like so much where we are going to have to wait and see. But this is still a very cool thing I'm pretty gosh darned excited about. And we know that there's going to be another type of EX. These are Terastal EXs. Now, we've only seen one of these so far. The one we've seen is Arcanine. It is worth noting, however, that we have actually seen some artwork of, and it's going to be one of the booster packs in the English version of the game. We have seen the artwork featuring Terastal Gyarados, which basically tells us there is going to be a Terastal Gyarados, which is going to be a Stage 1 Water type as an EX. Now, we are expecting, and we haven't seen very many of these is the problem, but we are expecting that these are going to be a little bit better than your standard EXs. They also have a new rule. Now, I've seen an awful lot of speculation on this, and I'm not it really is guesswork. Because you see, the Arcanine we've got basically says Terastal, and when it's on the bench, it doesn't take bench damage. It doesn't take damage from attacks when it's on the bench. Now, I've seen a bunch of people equating this to ancient traits, and I'm not 100% sure why. Except it basically is just people not paying enough attention. Because actually, if you have a look at the ancient traits, they all had little headings. Like, if we look at Excadrill, one of my favorites, it had Omega Barrage. So it wasn't just a standard thing, it was a Mega Barrage. And if we look at Arcanine, it just says Terastal. It's not a type of Terastal, it's just Terastal. Which says to me, this is what all Terastal Pokemon are going to have. And yes, I know that's very underwhelming, and for that I apologise. But that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we are. Now, we know there's going to be a bunch of key cards being reprinted in Scarlet and Violet. We've already seen Ultra Ball, and we've already seen Professor's Research Sada and Professor's Research Turo. They are just straight reprints of cards which are now being kept in the format. We've also seen Beach Court be revealed, which isn't technically a reprint, but it is, in all but name, a reprint of Sky Arrow Bridge. Same card, different name, many years later, but make no mistake about it, this is Sky Arrow Bridge, just by a different name. And interestingly enough, this is going to be a very, very good card, which is going to have a very big impact on the metagame, which is honestly kind of awesome. Unless you don't like Sky Arrow Bridge, which I suppose is a possibility. But honestly, kind of misery if I'm honest with you, that was a cool card. And that's largely what we've seen. We haven't seen a huge amount of reveals with Scarlet and Violet so far. We've basically seen that we've got EXs coming, and we know what they are. We've seen a single Terastal EX, and we've seen that there are some key cards being reprinted. We've also got the news of what's happening to the English version of the game, in terms of the borders and the price and pull rates and all of that. Outside of that, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, in terms of release dates, this comes out in Japan far earlier. Japan are having it on Friday the 20th of January. We're going to have to wait a couple of months until Friday the 31st of March. That's when we're getting our set. Feel free to be upset about that. That is just the way it goes. But this is shaping up to be a very exciting set. And also, right, Lightning. Between Miraidon's ability to get Pokemon out, which is amazing, and that tall card we've seen that lets you accelerate Lightning Energy, Lightning Pokemon are looking good. Oh, we're getting a Choice Belt reprint as well, which is completely irrelevant because Choice Belt only affects Pokemon V, does more damage to, and all Pokemon V are regulation mark F or lower. So having a regulation mark G Choice Belt just means we've literally got a whole year of Choice Belt with nothing to hit with it. So cheers for that. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we know about Scarlet and Violet, and if I may be so bold as to say so, I think it's time to get a little bit excited. But now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel. You can get some bonus podcasts where I answer all of your questions. You can join a Discord where we chat about Pokemon and various things. And you can get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Stephanie Schapp, who is one of our supporters and seems to be a very lovely person. So thank you very much for the support, and thank you for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.